Guys, I watched the entire Jeff Sessions confirmation hearing, and it is a lot, and I don't think anybody really is interested in watching the whole thing. So I am not going to put a video up there for the whole thing. Now, if enough people ask me for it, I will bite the bullet and put the entire hearing up on YouTube, but it will be a down and dirty video from start to finish. I'm not going to try to edit it or anything else, so there'll be a lot of junk in there. I really don't want to do it, but again, if I get enough people asking, and I'm not talking about 2 or 3, I need a bunch of people to ask for it, I'll put it up. That being said, the highlight of the hearing, where he got pretty much his butt handed to him, was done by Al Franken. Okay, just so that you know, and I'm going to give you some of the points of interest that took place. Number one, every time a Democratic senator questioned Sessions, when they got done, for some reason, at least 3 or 4 times, Chuck Grassley, who is the chairman of the committee, would stop the Republican questioner and interject some type of a letter or communication that he got from somebody, various people, former attorney generals, etc., 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 praising this guy. So I guess he did that in order to mitigate the damage that was done by the Democratic questioner. And at the very beginning, there wasn't a huge amount of damage, so why he kept doing this, I don't know. Now, speaking of letters, it was just discovered that Coretta Scott King had sent a letter to Strom Thurmond regarding his, i.e. Jeff Sessions' potential, his nomination and potential approval to become a federal judge back in '86. She had sent a letter to Strom Thurmond begging him not to even have a hearing for this guy, and the letter was scathing. I'm going to locate the letter and put the link to it online in this video. Okay, that being said, Mr. Sessions got his butt kicked by Al Franken. Various people, Sarah Issachar Flores, the official spokesperson for Mr. Sessions, has said various things, and I've done videos on her interviews. Now, the one thing that it appears that she was fairly accurate on, actually it was 2. The first thing was that the son of the Turners, who were the people that he prosecuted for voter fraud, the son actually did come out and issue an endorsement for Jeff Sessions. But his mother, who was still alive and was one of the people prosecuted, obviously, I don't know if it's going to be obvious, so I'll just let you know, she came out totally against this guy. Now, that's one. The second thing that she was accurate about was that one of the witnesses that testified against Mr. Sessions back in '86 got the information wrong. Okay? Absolutely got the information wrong. The person that was a jerk was, I believe, a predecessor to Mr. Sessions. Mr. Sessions wasn't even in the office at that time. So one of the witnesses was discredited, and he came back about 3 or 4 days later and issued a retraction. But the other witnesses, okay, regarding his claiming to have been helpful, actually filing discrimination lawsuits and being intimately involved in the lawsuits, that guy has stood up and his information has been verified and confirmed. Those gentlemen were the ones that did the article in the Washington Post where they called Jeff Sessions a liar as far as him being involved in filing various civil rights suits. But check this out. Here's Al Franken tearing him a new one.
Senator Franken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you.
In 2009, when you became the ranking Republican on this committee, you were interviewed about how you would approach the committee's work and nominations specifically. You said that Democrats should expect you to be fair because you had been through this process yourself back in 1986, and you felt that back then the committee had distorted your record. You said that moving forward, quote, "We're not going to misrepresent any nominee's record, and we're not going to lie about it," unquote. And we certainly don't want to do that to our colleague. But I also think it's fair to expect that sitting before us today that you're not going to misrepresent your own record. That's fair to say, right?
That is fair.
Good. Now, in that same interview, you said, quote, "I filed 20 or 30 civil rights cases to desegregate schools and political organizations and county commissions when I was the United States Attorney." So 20 or 30 desegregation cases. Did I misread that quote?
I believe that's what I've been quoted as saying, and I suspect I said that.
Okay, now that was 2009, but in November, your office said, quote, "When Senator Sessions was U.S. Attorney, he filed a number of desegregation lawsuits in Alabama, not 20 or 30 this time, but a number." So tell me, did you file 20 or 30 desegregation cases, or is it some other number?
Well, thank you, Senator Franken. It is important for us to be accurate. The records don't show that there were 20 or 30 actually filed cases. Some of the cases involve multiple defendants and multiple parties, like a school board and a county commission being sued for racial discrimination, things of that nature. But the number would be less than that, as we've looked at. So
what do you think would have caused you to say
I don't know.
that you filed 20 or 30 segregation?
Well, we had cases going throughout my district, and some of them were started before I came and continued after I left. Some of them were brought and then settled promptly, and so it was extraordinarily difficult. Actually, I was surprised to get a record by checking the docket sheets to find out exactly how many cases were involved. I heard one lawyer from the Department of Justice agreed with a large number, but the record doesn't just.
So basically, he embellished what he called the number of cases. It wasn't 20 or 30. So that was obviously an embellishment on the number. Okay. Let's keep going.
The questionnaire you submitted for today asks you to list and describe the, quote, 10 most significant litigated matters you personally handled. Personally handled. And among the cases that you listed that you personally handled are 3 voting rights cases and a desegregation case. Last week, I should note, 3 attorneys who worked at DOJ and who actually brought 3 of the 4 cases, wrote an op-ed piece in which they say, quote, "We can state categorically that Sessions had no substantive involvement in any of them." Now, you originally said that you personally handled 3 of these cases, but these lawyers say that you had no substantive involvement. Chairman Grassley, I would ask that op-ed from last Tuesday's Washington Post be entered into the record.
Without objection, it will be entered.
Okay, you guys, now you do your own research, because I'm not going to, at least I don't think I'm going to go through and try to find that Washington Post article. I may, but that's up in the air at this point, because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm getting fairly sleepy.
Are they distorting your record here?
Yes. In fact, one of the writers there, Mr. Hebert, spent a good bit of time in my office. He said I supported him in all the cases he brought, that I was more supportive than almost any other U.S. attorney, and that I provided office space. I signed the complaints that he brought. And as you know, may know, Senator Franken, when a lawyer signs a complaint, he's required to affirm that he believes in that complaint and supports that complaint and supports that legal action, which I did. We sued.
So that's your personal involvement. Was that your name was on it?
Well, you can dispute the impact or the import of the questionnaire. Another attorney, who Paul Hancock.
Okay, he just dribbled through that, and just check out the look on his face, because he's starting to get frustrated because he's caught.
Who brought cases in our district, said, well, the Attorney General claims credit for the cases in the Department of Justice. He saw nothing wrong with my claiming that this was a case that I had handled.
Okay, 2 of the...
So you can disagree with that, but those
I want to get through this, and I don't want you to... I want to get through
on
this.
the docket sheet, my name is listed number 1 on the as the attorney for the case.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm one of the few members of this committee who didn't go to law school, and usually I get by just fine, but it seems to me that a lawyer, if a lawyer has just his name added to a document here or a filing there, that lawyer would be misrepresenting his record if he said he was personally handled these cases. 2 of the lawyers who wrote the op-ed have also submitted testimony for today's hearing. Mr. Jerry Hebert and Mr. Joe Rich. Mr. Hebert says, quote, it says he, quote, litigated personally 2 of the 4 cases you listed. He said, I can state with absolute certainty that Mr. Sessions did not participate personally in either. Mr. Rich worked on 1 of the 4 cases you listed. He said, quote, I never met him at that time nor any other time, and he had no input to the case. These represent 3 of the 4 cases that you claimed that were among the top 10 cases that you personally handled. Now, in your 1986 questionnaire, you used phrases like, quote, I prepared and tried the case as sole counsel, and, quote, I was the lead prosecutor on this case, assisted by so-and-so. Why didn't you use the same level of detail in your 2016 questionnaire?
And looking at this questionnaire, we decided that was an appropriate response since it was a major historic cases in my office. Let me just reply. Okay, so translation, he had to sign off on the case going forward, okay, because he was the top attorney in that particular office. But he didn't do any of the work, so he wasn't personally involved in the bringing of the case and the prosecution of the case. He just signed off on the office moving forward with the case. So he lied. Senator Franken, in this fashion, Mr. Hebert, when in 1986, when he testified at my hearing, said, quote, "We have had difficulty with several U.S. attorneys in cases we have wanted to bring. We have not experienced that difficulty in the cases I have handled with Mr. Sessions. In fact, quite the contrary," close quote. He goes on to say, "I've had occasion numerous times to ask for his assistance and guidance. I have been able to go to him, and he has had an open door policy."
Okay, he just spun that, because what that statement meant was on cases where that attorney did go to him, okay, he did in fact receive help. That doesn't mean that the cases that he listed on that questionnaire were those cases.
And I've taken advantage of that and found him cooperative. And that is an accurate statement. I don't know Mr. Rich. Perhaps he handled a case that I never worked with. He goes on to say,
well, one of the cases...
No, I want you to raise this question.
One of the cases that you listed was a case that Mr. Rich handled. So if you don't know him, it's hard for me to believe that you personally handled it.
Busted again.
Well, when I found that these cases, I had been supportive of them. Here I was, Mr. Hebert says, quote, "And yet I have needed Mr. Sessions' help in those cases, and he has provided that help every step of the way. In fact, I would say that my experience with Mr. Sessions has led me to believe that I have received more cooperation from him, more active involvement from him, because I have called upon him," close quote. Quote, "I have worked side by side with him on some cases in the sense that I have had to go to him for some advice," close quote.
In some cases, but not necessarily the ones you listed.
Well, look,
okay,
it was 30 years ago, and my memory was of this nature, and my memory was my support for those cases.
Okay, so now he's going to blame it on his memory. That his memory now is faulty as far as the forms that he filled out, and on those forms you have to swear that the information you're putting on those forms is the truth and nothing but the truth. You have to sign an affidavit at the bottom of those forms.
Okay, look, I'm one of the few members of this committee who's not a lawyer. The chairman, the ranking aren't. But when I hear I filed a case, you know, I don't know some of the parlance, but it might have a special meaning in legal parlance. But to me, as a layman, it sounds to me like filed means I led the case, or I supervised the case. It doesn't mean that my name was on it. And it seems to me, look, I'll close, Mr. Chairman, setting aside any political or ideological differences that you or I may have, DOJ is facing real challenges, whether it's protecting civil rights or defending national security, and our country needs an attorney general who doesn't misrepresent or inflate their level of involvement on any given issue. I consider this serious stuff, as I know that you would if you were in my position.
Well, you're correct, Senator Franken. We need to be accurate in what we say. When this issue was raised, I did do a supplemental that said I provided assistance and guidance to Civil Rights Division attorneys, had an open door policy with them, and cooperated with them on these cases, close quote. I signed them, I supported cases, and attempted to be as effective as I could be in helping them be successful in these historic cases. I did feel that they were the kind of cases that were national in scope and deserved to be listed on the form. If I'm in error, I apologize to you. I don't think I was.
Well, you couldn't find 20 or 30 desegregation cases that you stated you had participated in, and it don't sound like you personally handled cases that you said you personally.
Well, I was on a radio interview without any records, and that was my memory at the time.
All right, so he got busted. Okay, just a quick recap. And there were all kinds of statements in this hearing, and totally supportive. All of the Republican people were totally supportive. Ted Cruz got in there and wasted 5 minutes of his time berating Barack Obama and Holden. You had the senator from California, what's her name? Dianne Feinstein. She got all over him. Most of the Democratic people, to one level or another, were, you know, either fairly nice but really questioned him. And then you had some guys that were up his butt. But Franken was the best. He caught him lying straight out, no ifs, ands, or buts. Now, some of the other things that were covered, Sessions basically said that he was going to make fraud one of the number one things that he was going to go after. He mentioned fraud as far as federal employees not paying their taxes. There's about, I guess, 100,000 federal employees or federal contractors that received money from the federal government and didn't pay taxes on that income. The amount of income was somewhere in the vicinity of like $1 billion. So there's a lot of tax money there. He did not mention going after the defense contractors, where there's like $254 billion worth of fraud that the Department of Justice has acknowledged. One of the other points was that he was against retroactive reduction of sentences on people who had committed drug offenses and had the three strikes rule applied to them. The Democratic guy got on that. Regarding that civil rights issue, he indicated that it was black local prosecutors that had asked him to come in to go after the 3 civil rights workers. That was a lie. He also was a protagonist for police. He doesn't want police criticized for the actions of quote-unquote a few. He wants to increase prosecutions of criminals that use guns. The numbers of prosecutions these past couple of years is down. He blamed that on Holder and Loretta Lynch. So he wants to increase the number of prosecutions. My question there was, well, if overall crime is down, how do you increase the prosecutions of people using guns if the actual number of crimes where people were using guns is down? And, you know, that's just a couple of the things. And again, I don't want to have to sit there and put like 8 hours of the entire hearing up. So I just basically gave you the nuts and the bolts of this one. But Franken, as I stated, wore him out.